Welcome to the Premiere Pro training. Just a couple of things that might help you out before we even get started. This is the logo for Premiere Pro. So it's a PR. All the Adobe logos are kind of boxes with different colors and two letters, typically two letters. The Premiere Pro training, I built a little program that will help you by opening some things for you and doing it automatically. And I want to show you this to you in the video so that when you walk through this yourself, and keep doing it yourself, then you know where this is. So over here where it says Premiere Pro Training App, it'll have a little white robot looking thing carrying a pipe. That's a workflow app that's kind of custom made. So double click that and it will open and it'll say, hello, are you ready to start training on Premiere Pro? If so, it'll open some windows that you need. If not, click cancel. So we are, so you click OK, and it opens up a few things for you. These things that it opens are the Media Room upload chart, which should stay up to date as sermons happen. The sermon title, the speaker, passage, all of that stuff should be updated from now forward. So going back to December 27th, 2015, we may, as we add the older stuff in, we may kind of add stuff to that retroactively. We may do that on a different spreadsheet. I don't know. So we'll see how that goes from that point forward. It also opens the Premiere Pro editing instructions. This is what will be shared to you. And so you can print this out on your own, or you can open it right here. If you open it here, it will be the most up-to-date instructions. There will be things on here that will change, specifically where we're saving stuff, because when we get that big external hard drive, all of the stuff will be saved there rather than on the video capture SSD. And that stuff that's going to change is here in yellow. So if you open it up here or at home, it will open just like that. Using this Premiere Pro training application, it will open to this current one, which will stay the most up to date. So it says you'll need all these things at some point in the training. Next, I'm going to open Premiere Pro. It will cover some of these windows, but don't worry, they're still there. To bring them back up, click their icon at the dock at the bottom of the screen. So when Premiere opens, it will open to about this size right here. So it's going to cover this this spreadsheet right here, but don't worry, it's still there. Okay. So we click OK. It opens Premiere for you, and Premiere actually has a start screen of sorts. So it will open up and let you see which project you want to open. So good luck, enjoy the training, thanks. So we want to open sermon videos, and it'll let you know that it's opening it up. As this gets bigger, it may take longer and longer to open, and we'll address that kind of when we hit that wall. But for now, this is working. So what we're going to do here, this is Premiere Pro. And to show you Premiere Pro, I'm actually going to drag this to make it full screen because we're not going to get to those editing instructions just yet in this video. Right now, I want you to learn to get comfortable with Premiere Pro. And the way we're going to do that is I'm going to show you how Premiere works. Premiere Pro is a very fluid, flexible working environment. It's a professional level video editing software. This is used from small projects to all the way stuff like major films. It is one of the standard video editing softwares. So actually, once you learn this, or at least a little bit about it, you can do some pretty serious video editing if you really want to get into it. The way that Premiere works is that it saves workspaces. So for example, depending on what type of work you're doing, you can bring up a different workspace. So for example, I don't know, let's see we need to really work on audio on something. It changes the whole layout. So the stuff like this is called the program feed. This is what is actually going to spit out once it's done editing. So that also is going to show you what's down here in the timeline. So this is called the timeline. And here are sequences. So don't worry about hanging on to all those terms right now. But you just need to know that this is all very fluid, and these little boxes do all different kinds of things. So to go back to the window that we're going to be using, go Window, Workspaces, Sermon Editing. And that'll bring you right back here. So all of these little boxes can be moved around, can be resized. You know, okay, this is way too big. Let's shift that over. Oh, that made my audio meter massive. So this is the audio meter. I'll show it to you. So you'll see it bouncing here as the audio goes louder and softer. But we don't want it that big. We actually want our program a little bigger. So let's shrink that back down. So you can resize this to however you want to fit whatever you like. So let's say I move some things around. I don't really want to, I don't like this look. I want to go back to what the default was. If you see up here, it'll say sermon editing. That's the workspace that you're in, the very top. So you can do reset to saved layout. And it's like you never did anything. So maybe the first thing you do in Premiere before you even start trying to edit something, how about you just move things around and you know, create your own workspace. So I'll show you how to do that. So let's do Window, Workspaces, and we'll do Save as New Workspace. So I'm going to pretend that my name is Bill. Okay, so this is Bill's workspace. I don't think we have anybody on the team named Bill, but that'd be funny if we eventually got one. So the way you move things around is, let's take the audio meter, for example. I like it here next to the program so I can watch it at the same time, but maybe you like it next to the timeline. Okay, so at the top of the audio meter, you'll see this little box. So there's actually a little black line there and another gray box at the top. If I grab that, holding down the left click, I can start to see all these little purple boxes showing up. And what that's going to do is it'll drop it wherever that purple box is. So let's say I want it to the left of the timeline. So you see how there's this middle area in the timeline, and then there's 4 little trapezoids on either side. That's going to show you where it's going to drop it. So let's drop it to the left. Now it's there. Okay, now we can resize it because I want it vertical and I want it skinny because it doesn't have to be that big. Perfect. Let's say I want this little toolbar. This has all the tools like the blade, which in Final Cut, which is what you're used to, would be B. On Premiere, it's C because you're cutting clips instead of using a blade. I guess that's their thinking. This is the Select tool. In Final Cut, that was A. In Premiere Pro, it's V. So, you know, if you want to cut a clip, you hit C, and it cuts it just like that. V selects it, things like that. So we don't want to necessarily edit that right now, so I'll undo that. But let's say I want this somewhere else. I want this on top of here. Or actually, that's going to add it as a tab. I don't want to do that. So let's drop this out of here. And let's add it to the top right there. If you drop it here, it's going to add it as a tab. That's where I accidentally let go. So up here, there's different tabs. I'll get to that in just a second. So we want to drop it into that top trapezoid, and that's going to put it above the timeline. Now, that's really kind of useless because I never actually use those things, but you might. So let's squeeze that back down to size. And that back down to size. Okay. And let's say, I don't really like this. Let's go back to the saved layout. Or I can save changes to this workspace. So once you get set, after you've created your own workspace, and make sure it says Bill and not Sermon Edit. Don't make changes to the Sermon Edit, please. You know, Bill, save changes to this workspace. Now, you know, if somebody else comes in and they don't like your workspace, they can go back to the default of sermon editing by Window, Workspaces, Sermon Editing. Click it, and it jumps right back to what our standard is going to be. Okay, so let me show you how tabs work. So in these boxes, so this whole blue line is one of those boxes. This is the program box. This is the audio meter box. This is our various kind of random stuff in the left box. So this box here has 4 tabs. Okay, so Source, Effects, Effects Control, and Audio Clip Mixer. Those tabs are, you know, they can be their own box if you want them to be. You know, so I can drag that there. I can drag effects controls there, and maybe I want the source down here, and you can arrange these however you want. If it makes sense to you to always have effects controls here, then fine, move it there. If you want to always see the various audio meters for every track, fine. Whatever works for you. So you can actually see the 2 different audio channels going on right there and mix it however you want to do it. So let's go back to our default, reset to save layout. And now I'll show you what each of these tabs actually are. So first, let's take a look down here. Down here we have project and markers. Project is like a file system that's going to hold all the different files that we need. Instead of files, Premiere Pro calls them bins. So this first bin is January 10th, 2016, and it has the raw image, or sorry, the raw video, and it has the sequence. I'll get to those in just a minute. So this is the bin for the 17th. It has a couple of raw footages and the sequence. The 24th, which has, again, raw footage and the sequence. So various things down here. This is a file system where things are going to be stored. The one that you're going to use pretty much every week is South Logos, and it just has the South Church logo. Remember the little source box up here? That's kind of like a preview. So let's pretend we didn't click that. If you double click a item in the bin, it will show up in this source, and it basically shows you what that is. It's a preview. So that lets you know, okay, that's the South logo. Well, I wonder what this file is right here. Oh, okay, well that's the 24th. And think of this as like a little mini timeline. So you can click there, hit the space bar, and preview it. That's the raw video. And you're actually going to hear those little clicks in the background because it hasn't been taken out. I'll show you how to do that in the editing video. There's a lot of different things you can do with this preview video, or with this preview window, but you really don't need that per se right now. Okay, so we'll close that up. So the other one down here is markers. Markers are just like they were in Final Cut. So let's say we add a marker, and I'll show you how to do that in the editing video. But let's say we add a marker, Doug, welcome. You know, that will show up there. So if you want to look at all your markers, they'll show up there. I definitely spelled welcome wrong, but that's okay. So let's add another marker, worship, whatever. They'll all show up here, and the time, the in and out time. And you can actually move those along if you need to. You can adjust them like that by dragging. I'm making very small adjustments here, but if we zoom in a little bit, and I'll show you how to do that on the editing, you can see that the marker will move. Very, very slow. So that's not the best way to move a marker. Anyway, so that's the marker window. It's going to show all your markers. So sermon videos are where we keep the storage. Markers are showing our markers for whatever selected clip we have. I'm actually just going to delete these really quick. Double click and it brings up the marker editor. So if you named it wrong, you can go back and adjust the name, delete it. Let's go to effects. Effects are going to hold things like audio crossfades, video crossfades, different, you can mix color balances, you can do all kinds of stuff in effects. So it holds a ton of things here in, audio effects. If we want to add a delay, we can drag that onto the clip. We don't want to do that, but we could. If we want to add an EQ, if we want to add distortion, a dehummer, de-esser, there's all kinds of tools in here, the vast majority of which you're not going to use for a sermon edit. One thing that you will use is a crossfade transition. So cross, if you just search in the search bar, whatever you're looking for, it'll pull up all of the different things in these various folders. So there's a few video transitions that have cross in them, and there's a few audio transitions that have cross in them as well. So this is the crossfade folder for audio. This is the cross dissolve transition here. So one transition that you are going to be using fairly often is called cross dissolve. That's this one. So if you search cross, it'll pull it up. To add it, you just drag it on. Oops, didn't grab it. This microphone is kind of in my way, so I can't see. Okay. Maybe it'll let me add it. I don't know. There we go. So if you drag it to the end of the clip, it'll show up there. Of course, I held it too long. So just drag it there. Now that adds a little bit of a cross dissolve. So here, I'm going to lower the volume. So we want to preview this. We click here on the top of the timeline, and it kind of fades that image out. Let me show you what it would be like if we didn't have that. It would be kind of choppy. So it just kind of adds that nice transition. Another one that you're going to be using pretty frequently is called dip to black. So you search dip, and there are actually two up here, dip to black and dip to white. Those are going to be used at the very end of all of the videos. It kind of fades them to black. So one way you can get around in the timeline is you can drag this little bar, and this is kind of like a scroll bar, usually on the right side of Windows. This is on the bottom, so it lets you scroll from left to right. You can also zoom in by pinching it closer together. You can zoom out by pulling it out. So let's zoom all the way out. Okay, so this is our whole clip. It's about 1 hour and 8 minutes long. Let's jump the timeline, or the playhead, to kind of towards the end. And what we'll do is we'll zoom in. But rather than trying to zoom in with this, that can be pretty inaccurate. There's an easier way to do it. If you use just the plus and minus keys, it'll zoom in, keeping the playhead right at the center of your timeline. So zoom in with the plus, zoom out with the minus, right next to the backspace button. And you can zoom in, and you can go in really far to where you can actually see almost the individual audio samples. So let's zoom out a little bit. Let's go to the end. And actually, we're going to add the South Church logo to this. I'll show you this more in depth in the actual editing video, but I'm just going to throw it in right there, and we're going to add a dip to black transition. So we'll just drag that to the end of it. Okay. And then as we play, and it fades out. Let's actually add that so that it's happening at the same time as the last few things going on. So let's preview this real quick. So right about here is when Don walks off. So I can click and drag this up here to preview it a little bit, and you can see Don is done praying here. Amen. That little audio blip right there is amen. All right, let's double check that. Yeah, okay. So right here is where we can actually start this South Church logo. So the way that these layers work, so these up here, V1, V2, V3, are all the video layers. And if you want something on top, you just literally drag it on top. So you see this South Church logo is right on top of this video down here. So this V1 is the video, the V2 is this South Church logo, at least right here. So that will overlay it. We'll drag that out. So now, amen, South Church logo comes up. That's a really long time to have the logo up, so we probably don't need it that long. And we can add that cross dissolve at the front of it so it fades in rather than chop in. And let's go ahead and pull this back so that we don't have the logo up there for quite so long. I'll show you this more in depth on the editing video, but let's preview it. So the cross dissolve should come in, it fades in nice and smooth, and then it should dip to black. Oops, except I guess it ends a little early. Okay. Now, what we're running into is that this logo is much smaller than the total frame of the video. So that needs to be adjusted. The way we do that is we select the image, which is right here. It's this purple one. And if you can't see it, just zoom in. So South Church logo. It'll appear white when you click on it. And then what we do is we go up here to Effect Controls. Effect Controls allow you to change or manipulate any of the effects that you add. So, even these cross dissolves, you can manipulate that in effect controls. You can set the duration, when it starts, all of that. But for now, we're just going to edit this image. And we need to make it bigger. And that's a motion effect, which is already on all images and all videos. So these three are kind of defaults. So motion and then scale. What we're going to do is we're going to set that scale to 175. And you can just kind of blow it up. You can also click and drag. So if I want to make it smaller, I can click and drag to the left or to the right. So it changes the scale of the image. So we want it at 175. So that way, when we play it, it dissolves into the logo and fades to black. Except I don't like how that is overlaying right there, so we're going to do that. Because it's jumping back to the video, and boom, it's done. So, those are kind of the basics of Premiere Pro. Obviously, we'll go into a lot more detail with all of the little editing things that I did, but now you know, okay, if I click here, that's going to show that section of the video. This is audio. So, like video is all above, audio is all below. And we can scroll down with the mouse out here in the timeline part. We can scroll up or down and see all those audio channels. For some reason, our audio recorder records 16 channels of audio when we really only need audio 1 and audio 2. And they start out being really, really small like that to where you can't see them. So if you go over here and kind of hold over the A2, don't click it, but scroll up, it makes them bigger. Just so that you can see what audio you're working with. So with that, that's kind of the intro to Premiere. And that should help you along and should help you develop your own workspace. If you want to just keep using the sermon editing workspace, that's great. That'll work. So we'll reset to the save layout. I don't think we made any changes, but that'll work. So hopefully I will see you on the editing training.